I arrived in Key West to direct a simple documentary. A documentary about the rainbow flag, the gay symbol that for 25 years had stood for equality and struggle. The gentleman I was to meet was Mr. Gilbert Baker, an eccentric character whose life had been dedicated to building hope for gays, lesbian, and transgendered individuals. The flag, it seemed, was to be the largest, longest flag ever built, 1¼ miles, that would stretch down a tiny street named Duval, reaching from the Gulf of Mexico to the Atlantic Ocean. This event would take over 3,000 volunteers to unfurl and would include the 8 original colors created by Mr. Baker, 2 having been removed 25 years ago due to manufacturing limitations. I was hot, edgy, and actually even skeptical. Not about the task, but the story. Was there a story?
The real experience of Key West, as beautiful a place as it is, you know, this tiny island caught between 2 oceans with more colors of water than you'd ever want to see and world-famous sunsets. Key West is not about the geography and about the beauty and the temperature. All that's fabulous, but that's not the real key to Key West. The key to Key West are the people who've chosen to be here, the community that lives here. This is an amazing group of wonderful and talented people. All those other factors are just perks.
This is basically kind of my first hospitality experience at Mango's. They asked me to come in and do a spot check. So I came in at 7:30 in the morning, walked through the kitchen, and the kitchen looked like cell block H. I mean, it was so scary. And I have been around kitchen south since I was 13. And not much. I just came from the islands, mind you, so I'm not afraid of too much. So I'm looking at the kitchen tab, I'm like, oh my God. So there's a guy on saute and he's in a tutu. Like seriously, in a tutu. And I was like, oh, okay. I walk through the kitchen, I go to the nightclub, 7:30 in the morning, they're still all partying in the nightclub. Okay, and the nightclub closed at 4, which means in Key West time is 5:30. So 7:30 they should have been out of there by like 7. So I come back out and I go to order breakfast and I sit down. The waiter comes to the table and he still has lip liner on and he has 1 eyelash. And all I can think of is, where the hell's the other eyelash? Where's the other eyelash? I mean, it's killing me. I can't think of anything else but where that other eyelash is. And you know, he's still like, hey, what can I get you, girl? And it's like, with the 1 eyelash, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna go. I had to leave. So I sit them down and I said, you have some serious issues. And they said, well, what would you like to start with first? And I said, well, just on a workman's comp issue. The guy in the tutu. You can't work saute in a tutu, okay? You just can't. It's flammable. And then to even think, I even have to have this conversation about a tutu. I'm listening to myself going, maybe you should get on the plane. I'm not sure.
I see Key West as just a big tapestry with all the different backgrounds, rich or poor, whatever race, religion, whatever your sexual orientation, whatever else might make you feel separate, but we've somehow woven ourselves together into a fabric, and that's why, you know, it's such a supportive system.
Regardless of your faith, your sexuality, your race, there's an acceptance, not just a tolerance. I hate that word. We should teach tolerance. No, we shouldn't. You shouldn't just have to tolerate me. We should teach acceptance and accept people for who they are, regardless, not just tolerance. Tolerance is pretty pitiful, if you ask me.
We are an island. We're isolated. We're closer to Cuba than we are to Miami, the next major city. At one point, we were one of the richest cities per capita in the country because of wrecking. We had a huge sponging industry at one point. We had a tremendous cigar industry. All those things, as they fell away, new things came in to replace them.
The cigar industry was throughout the country. It was a major industry throughout the country, but the cigars made here were considered the best. Key West, by the early in the Depression in the early 30s, was bankrupt. 70 to 80% of the people, the population in Key West was on welfare.
During the Depression in the 1930s, Franklin Delano Roosevelt had sent a group of artists to Key West, and they were the WPA, Works Progress Administration.
You know, we have a reputation as pirates and smugglers and gun runners and rum runners and all of that. And you know, not a lot, but there were a number of people that participated in those activities that were able to pay bills, were able to purchase food, were able to keep their families going.
I remember when I first came to town, there was a sort of underlying don't ask, don't tell that had nothing to do with sexual preference. But there were so many smugglers in town. And I'd say, hi, I'm George, I'm new in town, I'm a writer, I came from New England. What do you do? And everyone at the table would turn and look at me as if to say, and who the hell are you to ask what I do? Because there were an awful lot of people doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And so one very quickly learned the etiquette of not asking. And there are people in this town I've known for 20 years. I have no idea what they actually do for a living, not that it matters.
All of those different types of industry that were here attracted different people from all around the world, and a lot of them stayed because of the beauty of the island. So it was a very diverse town from the very beginning.
20, 30, 40 years ago, when all the artists started coming down to Key West, and it just became this kind of quirky little artsy town.
Tennessee Williams was one of the leading gays that came to Key West.
The gay people helped make Key West because they came down here and they bought some of these old homes. They renovated them as only gay people know how to do. And they made these beautiful guest houses, and more gays started to come in as visitors because they had a place to stay, and it just steamrolled.
I just wish he were still alive, that Mayor Hyman.
He's the type of mayor that I want to be like. Someone that accepted everyone, brought everyone to the table, discussed issues, and able to bring the community together to build a consensus.
As you know, he was the openly gay mayor of Key West. He was the first to announce this in the United States when he was elected and happily re-elected.
As a gay community, we are mainstream, and I know that that's not very popular a lot of places, but in Key West we are mainstream. We are in every element of the community. We are in politics, we are in the private business sector, we are in the library, we are in the schools. Mainstream is not necessarily a bad thing.
We're a small town that has a very big vision of itself. Wanting to have the longest rainbow flag that's ever been unfurled is an aspect of that, and I admire that in people, in us in a sense, of sort of daring to be great.
For a few years, I worked in a retail store on Duval Street, and the proprietors had milled a rainbow beach towel. That was one of the hottest sellers, of course. And the owners had put out a sign explaining what the pride flag represented. And it, gave the standard script. In 1976, Gilbert Baker designed the flag. And I can't tell you how many times I've repeated that to customers. And then here, years later, I meet Gilbert.
Sort of thinking about logos and all that stuff, I thought, well, it's a symbol. What we need is a symbol. The most important symbol is the American flag. That's really where it came from. And then as I got into studying the history of the American flag and understanding its role in our culture, I realized absolutely we should have a flag. It's actually pretty logical that it would be a rainbow. As I mentioned, we were dancing in this sort of rainbow of diversity, of race, of gender, and also the rainbow is something from the sky. It's a natural flag, it's a piece of the sky, the rainbow. I don't know, it just fit.
One of our big goals was to do a dream of a gentleman named Greg McGrady.
I left, I think it was 8:01. I looked outside and said, God, this would be a pretty cool thing to do a flag from left to right, from the Gulf of Mexico to the Atlantic Ocean.
I have a friend, Deborah Oakley Melvin, and I worked with her in Rome, and she said, there's these two really crazy people here from Key West, and they have this dream to put a flag across the island.
The idea was shared through Heather to Gilbert about what we were trying to accomplish. Gilbert shared with Heather the 25th anniversary, and he was trying to do something special for that. This kind of made sense together.
They told me their dream was to put a flag across their island, that it would go, as they said, sea to sea, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico, and that rang my bell.
The flag was the thing that We saw that. That was the symbol. That showed us, hey, one of us is here.
When I was probably 11, we were at a Christian camp, and I remember the preacher getting up talking about how that the faggots have taken a hold of a perfectly good symbol in the Bible, the rainbow, and basically had corrupted it and used it as their own.
So I thought, well, you know, that could be really important to do it, not in New York, not in Paris or San Francisco, but to really make something really great in a small town, because that really is where gay liberation is right now. It's those small towns, you know, it's Oklahoma City. It's where people are really just finally having the courage to come out. The city motto of Key West was one human family, and I just thought, you know, this could be really good to do in Key West.
The terrible thing about being gay is that you grow up feeling alone. You're alone in your own family. No other minority can say that. A black kid is not alone in his black family. He has some degree of support. We have none, so we have to make families for ourselves. That's what these parades represent, and that's what that flag represents, the family that we've made for ourselves and our willingness to welcome anyone with a loving heart into that family.
And this is an all-inclusive flag. That's the beauty of it. We're all the colors of God's rainbow.
There are so many fathers and mothers out there right now that have such hatred towards their own children just because of their sexual preference.
My foster parents always said that we love you, and our love for you is special because we choose to love you. And then when my dad called that day and said, you know, if I knew you were a fucking faggot, the love all of a sudden became conditional, and it was conditional on the fact that I was gay and he found out. So I think that hurts me more than anything, that it wasn't unconditional love, it was conditional love. And he couldn't love me for the person I was the whole time that he knew me.
The flag it's not only representative of, I think, the gay community anymore, any more than I think the Negro National Anthem is just a song for the black people in America.
Stonewall was where we hung out, and we were celebrating my birthday on June 28th, 1968, when they came in and raided the bar, and we all went out in the streets and said, you're not going to do this to us anymore. And that was the beginning of gay rights, and it's been, to see all of this so many years later, is just, it gives me goosebumps.
It was the time of Harvey Milk. Harvey was a close friend of mine. I adored him, and he was kind of the general of San Francisco in the movement. The truth will set you free. Harvey said that over and over again. And then he said, I remember the day of the 1978, the first flag. That day he gave the greatest speech of his life. And he challenged us. I think he knew that our mission as gay people, as out gay people, was to give other gay people hope. So that's what I carry with me from Harvey.
It's striking. I mean, it's right there in your face that this town is different.
I mean, up in the Boston area and other New England places, and throughout the country, you have communities that have their own gay softball teams or the gay choir or things like that. There's none of that here, because for the most part, it doesn't matter. If you're gay and you want to go down to the chorus, just go. Nobody cares. If you want to bring your partner, and they're just going to ask if he can sing.
I'm so spoiled, we go other places, and we'll be walking through a mall in LA, and Terry will be like, honey, we're not in Key West. And I'm like, I don't care, you know, but it took her a little while to get used to that, because I've always been a big old out dyke, so, you know.
You have to understand us, we don't need to understand you. Here's a big difference. And I don't mean that in a snotty way, but you really need to understand just how special what we have going is, and respect it. And whether you agree with it or not, that's not our problem. You're here. You can leave anytime, you know. But at least understand it and respect it, and relish in it. You know, talk to some locals. Talk to a drag queen when you're walking down the street. Go to a drag show. Go see some of the entertainers. Go to some of the great theaters.
We experience our lives as part of the world that is straight, and there are times, no matter how out you are, when you are not really able to be yourself. You don't feel able to be your real self because your perception is at that moment, at that time, that's not going to serve your purposes, it's not going to be well received. And so you present yourself differently than you really would like to do. And that's just a fact of life. We all live in that straight world. We've all accommodated ourselves to it, but it's at a price. And what happens down here is there is a place where you can actually be yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Nobody actually cares who you want to sleep with or what you want to wear or put on your head. They care intensely what kind of a person you are, but not about that conventional stuff. And that's enormously liberating. It's not just safe, it's liberating and very, very powerful.
Particularly the conks accept people on face value.
The diversity that is so prevalent here is been built in for generations, and it's not anything new to us.
Old conk friend of mine years ago said, look, tell your new friends who come down that if they murdered their mother, tell it. You will be accepted. If it is found out later that you have not divulged, oh, that's a different world.
From the Cuban community to the Bahama Village community to the gay and lesbian community to the conch community to the old 60s hippie community that's still down here. You know, it's an interesting blend, and each little part adds something very unique and wonderful to this town.
I've said a number of times that, you know, we open our arms up and accept everyone. And I think it's more acceptance of one another than it is tolerance of one another.
Who someone is, what they do, becomes just so much less important down here. What really matters is, are they a good person? Are they nice? Are they witty? Do you like them?
I know the way I feel. I'm a straight person. And when I look at a person, I don't care if they're white or black, gay or straight. It's the person themselves.
You know, all these things that on the surface make us different, you know, when it gets down to it, we're all the same person. You know, we all have similar hopes and fears and emotions and responses, and that other stuff is just, it's just dressing, you know. And I guess maybe to me what this is representing is the soul of a community and the soul of humanity.
I'm a third generation conch. I was born here in Key West at the old Monroe General Hospital.
I've been here all my life.
Key West was one of the most reasonable spots in the nation when I was a little girl.
My family, I have a really large family. I'm like a 5th generation conch.
Yep, five generations. My grandchild is 5 generations born on the island.
I was born and raised here. 81 years, been right here in this block, no further. 81 years, right here in this block and no further.
I remember being able to go outside and play outside all hours of the night and having all different kind of kids over in the yard into the house.
You didn't have to watch your children. Everybody did that for you, okay? If a child misbehaved, they would spank their behinds and send them home and tell the parents why they did it, and the parents would tear their behinds up as well, okay? That's why we were good children.
My grandfather came over from Spain by way of New York and Cuba.
I can remember my mother telling the 4 children I would step outside and get a few crawfish, as we referred to lobsters.
Out here we didn't have to worry about food. We go fishing. Okay, as long as you got a line and a hook, you didn't have to worry about nothing to eat.
You didn't have to go to the grocery store to buy your dinners. You could just go out and pick them up and eat them.
The mangoes, sea grapes, sapodillies, papaya. What was the sugar apple, pony apples?
All kind of fruit.
I mean, tamarinds, you know, Spanish limes, all the tropical fruit you wanted.
We ourselves have been such sufferers that we can feel for the other person.
If I ever need something
or ever want something or ever become ill, the only place I'd want that to happen would be in Key West, because everybody comes forth. It's the most giving town I've ever been in my entire life.
Our forefathers have suffered so many times that if we think somebody has a problem, we want to get in there and help them.
Let's put it this way, I mean, I've never lived in a community that raises more money for charities in my entire life.
Human nature with most is that they do want to take care of their own. But I think that when you have a small town as small as this, and you have the, as it's called here, the coconut telegraph, when somebody is in need, it is a matter of very quick amount of time before the whole town knows that, and everybody comes together.
The entire social system of this town operates on fundraising.
Key West loves to throw a party, and if you can raise money at the same time doing it, why not?
I'm sure someone's accounted the numbers, but I'm sure it's millions and millions of dollars out of a very small 30,000 population community. It's pretty amazing.
And so what happens is the community is constantly going out and, you know, dropping a 20 here and there in a bucket, but that money stays in the community and takes care of people. And the sense that we develop of our obligations to the community continues.
There's probably only about $10,000 in the whole community. It just keeps going from hand to hand and rotating.
This community has a tremendous social conscience. It really believes that every person can help make the community better, and everybody really does. Everyone donates as much as they can.
The gay community, they have contributed a great deal to the city. So when you get to know the people, it's not what their sexual preference is what they can do for others. It's one hand helping another.
People here are so kind and so helping us and so generous. It's almost like going back to the 1960s. I sometimes call Key West Mayberry EYW, which is our airport code, because it's kind of like Mayberry RFD. We have Gomer and Goober and Barney and all the rest.
You know, it really took about 6 months. It takes about 6 months to figure this place out, because when you think about it, there are guys in dresses, then you have your European crowd, then you have your Czech crowd, then you have your conks. So it just takes a little while to really understand where everybody's coming from. And then once you understand where everybody's coming from, I consider it to be the beginning of the world, not the end of the earth. And everybody thinks it's the end of the earth, and it's completely the opposite. And those that get it live here, and those that don't get purged out. And it's amazing what Key West can do. It can purge somebody that doesn't belong here out. I've watched it.
People definitely come here to drop out of society, which is okay. It's a nice place to do it.
Mm-hmm. It is a good place to
As long as you don't get messed up on drugs and alcohol, because that happens a lot.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
No.
We were sitting down having a drink, and a friend of ours that we'd spoken to when we got in was on the other side of the bar. So Steve and I had a couple of drinks, and our friend got up to leave, and as he got up, he sort of staggered through the door going out, and I said, gee, he's carrying a load, isn't he? And this character sort of turned to me and looked, he says, you just don't understand. Thinking I was from out of town, he says, we don't have a town drunk here. We all take turns. And then went back to drinking his wine.
I question sometimes whether I'm not hiding from my own sense of responsibilities in the real world.
They say you find solace, the sea will give you solace when nothing else can.
Those who choose to stay here and to live here, they really, I think people tend to want to leave some baggage behind.
So we have people that have, quote unquote, dropped out of life and ended up at the end of the rainbow, or mile marker zero.
I just wanted peace. I came here for peace.
My girlfriend, who died a number of years ago, said it very implicitly. You get what you get when you get it, whether you like it or not. She died of cancer, and I did everything in my power to try to stop it.
I just fit my psychology and many others. It was down at heels, it was broke, it was falling apart, it was shabby, and it was magnificent for an artist or a young person trying to find themselves or just wanting to lose themselves.
We have multimillionaires that live in Key West that are friends with people that make $10 a month. I mean, it's a cool place to be because it doesn't really matter who you are.
Man, 1,000 years ago, just lived from day to day. He didn't do anything for the future. He didn't think about the future. He just got by from day to day. He found enough food to eat, he found enough water to drink, and he just kept on fucking going. And that's all there is to it. But today we've got ourselves so engrossed in these ideas of where we think we're going to go and what we think we're going to do with our lives. You know? Who gives a fuck? You know? You come, you go, and it's over.
For those who can find solace nowhere else, it's a refuge, it's a haven, especially for Americans who are overamped and overhyped, especially for young Americans who may be sensitive and not be able to hack a brutal materialistic society. They either become psychotic or criminals or drop out. And here it's easy to drop out with fellowship.
It's hard for a young person to come here and live. It's hard for kids that were born and raised here to stay here, to start families and everything. Undoubtedly, we have a high cost of living.
If you're spending 18 hours on a job, when do you have for your mother, your father, your grandparents? I remember growing up at night, we would all get together and sit out on the porch and just talk. You don't have that now because between going from full-time job to part-time job, you get lost. You don't have that family time, you don't have that togetherness.
My cost of housing when I moved here 14 years ago went up 300% from where I had been living, and it's never gone down.
Key West is turning into Aspen, where it's getting to the point where the locals can no longer afford to live there and work it, so it's selling itself under.
Yeah, housing is getting worse, right? Because houses are selling for more and more money. A couple of years ago, we just kept waiting for the bubble to burst on house sales, and it hasn't. With the stock market having its problems, people started pulling out of that and putting money into real estate. So elevated property prices even got worse. So now there is no more bubble, and we're not expecting it to burst.
And being so diverse, one of the things that we need to watch out for as a community is to make sure that it's a livable town for people to come down here in the service industry. Because if you don't have that service industry base, you're not going to have the diversity. You can have all the millionaires you want, but stop off in Palm Beach. Don't stop here. This is not the place for you if you want to live, around a bunch of millionaires. The neighborhoods are still great. You have a shanty, a mansion, a shanty, a mansion. It's all mixed in. And to keep that character, I think, is really important.
We need to keep our families here. We need to keep the next generation of kids that were born here. We need to make sure that we find ways in which they can start businesses, they can buy homes, and that they can stay here and start families to start the next generation of Key Westers.
The most extraordinary thing for me once I've gotten back here is to discover this long line of family history, 6 and 7 generations living in the same house on the same block. And for most of the blacks coming from the mainland, we just don't have the privilege of being able to trace family back that far because we are all victims of slavery.
I never knew nothing about slavery. I never had to go through it.
You can probably trace your roots back to your grandparents, but once you get past that, the next relative may be the slave owner from Georgia.
I was brought up in one of the oldest historically black churches in the state of Florida, Cornish Memorial AME Zion Church, built from the timbers from slave ships.
We all lived as one. Yeah, we all lived as one. White folks, Cubans, Nassau's, we all lived as one.
We didn't know prejudice.
My father being from Georgia, my grandmother, I don't believe had more than an 8th grade education. One thing that they instilled in myself and my brothers and taught us was that we were all equal and we treat one another with respect and we judge people for their character and for who they are and not by the color of their skin.
Till TV came, then we got to know what the outside world was like when we got TV. Other than that, we were just fun-loving people.
So I knew what was going on, and I could never understand, you know, like here we are, Key West, and I don't understand the issue. I don't understand why blacks aren't allowed to ride the bus, why they aren't allowed to eat in the same restaurants.
I didn't know it until I left here to go to Georgia, you know, to pass through Georgia, and that was the first time my kids were small, and it really frightened the hell out of me.
I can remember playing basketball in high school, and us going up to Miami to play a game, and we stopped at a restaurant in Isla Mirada. I never will forget this. And when we walked in, there were three blacks on the basketball team. There were some black cheerleaders. There were some students that were black as well. And that was the first time I ever ran into discrimination, when the owner of that place said that they would not serve us.
My father had driven me as far as Georgia, and they had a little shack for a bus station, and they told us we had to leave out because they were closing it down. So I asked her, where can I get something to eat? It's a restaurant across the street. So I go across the street and I go inside. I see the black people outside to the window, but I didn't think anything of it. We go to the bathroom, so I asked for a menu. She looked at me and told me I had to go outside to the window. I said, excuse me? I said, my children and I have to go out there in that heat for something to eat. She said, well, let me talk to her. I said, that's okay. Children, let's go. Come on, let's go. We got to go. And that was my first incident with prejudice, and it was frightening.
I mean, not just with the gay thing, but with minorities. I mean, Hispanic, African American. I mean, everybody here just, it doesn't matter what you are. Everybody just gets along.
Because we were all like one big family here.
That's why.
You know, like she said, the Cubans, the whites, you know, the blacks, we were all in each other's houses, the kitchen. It was like one big family.
When we went away to college,
we were shell-shocked.
It was a cultural shock. It was a huge cultural shock.
I mean, of course, we have our little spats and everything, and we do have, you know, a small amount of problems, but it's just not segregated like it is everywhere else.
But it's totally different
in the real world
than what's going on across the 7 Mile Bridge and on the mainland.
People go about their business. The gays are in charge of things here. You can move up and down the street. People just don't care about the color.
Most of my best friends are gay.
I have family members who are gay, okay? I can't condemn him or her because they're that way. That's my blood. Why should I condemn you? You know, I don't want nobody condemning me for something that they feel that I'm doing wrong, and I don't feel that anybody's doing anything wrong. As long as they're not harming anybody out, feel free to live your life as you choose.
I have them in my family, so it really doesn't bother me what they are and what they do. You know, because they're human beings just like I am.
Our neighbors across the street are homosexual, and they're like some of the coolest people that I've met.
And I'd rather hang out with gays than straight, because I know where they're coming from. They're better people. You can call them friends, because they're going to stick by you. They're going to be there for you. Straight, you can't count on them too much, you know. Backstabbers. That's what they'll do you. Smile. And I'm telling you the way it is.
As far as I'm concerned, you're gay until proven otherwise at this point in my life. I mean, I was in a bar with my brothers in Boston. They were like, hey, Em, they're trying to pick you up. I'm like, get out of here, they're gay. So it goes to show you that it's, you know, even as a straight person, and because I relish living in a gay town, I can go anywhere by myself whenever I want. It's marvelous. As a female, it is just fabulous. And you have friends that shop, friends that'll fix your hair. I haven't had to buy a black tie gown in 10 years. I just borrow them from the drag queens, and I get all my accessories with them, and they make sure I do my makeup right, and it's great, you know. So for me, I love it.
You grow up in the household, and the people, you learn from the people who are around you. So you either tolerate it or you don't.
So we get along. You might find a few don't like it, but they have to live with it. Because some of them don't open their closets. And the best way to live, if you're gonna open up your closet, just tell it the way it really goes. Don't keep it closed, just bring it out in the opening. Because eventually it will come out. And then you got your head holding back and saying, well, I didn't know. Oh, you knew. You just didn't want to open that door. So it's best to open it, don't close it, just bring it right out.
My friend Bobby Campbell, one of the early Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, came in one day and said, I want to show you something on my foot. And he showed me some Kaposi sarcoma. I was like, what the hell is that? And so he was a nurse, and I have a medical background. And like he said, well, they think it's this gay cancer. And of course, we all had gonorrhea, syphilis, hepatitis, you know, it was wild. And all of a sudden, there's this new thing we didn't know anything about.
A few people died, you know, that we knew, and it was always kind of a shock because when they were young, too, it was pneumonia was like, what did he die of? It was pneumonia.
Within a couple of years, half of my friends were dead. Half of my friends were gone within 2 or 3 years. I remember that 83 to 85 period in particular is just watching all of my friends, seemingly all of them, just get sick and die. And a horrible, horrible death.
There were people dying every week. I mean, it was pretty sad, awful, and incredible that people that you knew and thought you would know really for the rest of your life were gone.
It devastated the island long before I got here. Yeah. You could almost say it decimated it in its true sense. Decimated meaning 1/10 of the population. So that's about what it did.
It was an absolute nightmare. There were patients dying left and right. The hospital was inundated with people in end-stage HIV.
Key West was very different 10 years ago. It had more of an artistic flair to the community, a lot more eccentric characters and people. It had a lot more color, and that color died from AIDS.
Back in I came down here in 92, that was still a time period where people were still not getting tested, and they were presenting to the hospitals end stage. So when you saw them for the first time, many of them were end stage disease. They were dying faster than you could count.
What was surprising to me was that I thought I had been careful and didn't realize what I had done had exposed me. And there's no excuse for stupidity, but that's what it was, and I had it, and now I had to deal with it.
There were basically two patient populations, and they evolved over the years too. There was the patient population that had been here, either the conchs or people had moved here and lived long periods of time. Then there was an efflux of patients who had been diagnosed as ill and essentially were coming to Key West as an escape, as a place to live in paradise for the last years of their lives.
Everything that I had planned on doing and wanted to do, I wasn't going to do anymore. So I had to figure out, okay, I've got 2 years. What am I going to do that's going to make an impact in 2 years that I can actually say the reason I was here on this planet was worthwhile? And so I moved and made the change.
So there were two distinct populations, and that made it a little bit more burdensome on Key West, because Key West not only was absorbing the care of their own, but it was absorbing the care of those that were migrating.
It wasn't easy. It was a big change. It was radical from working all the hours I was doing and coming here and getting on the medications and dealing with the illness was very difficult. There was quite a while they thought I was going to die because I was very malnourished and very sick a lot of the time.
I mean, the AIDS memorial, it happened subsequently of people who lived here, who chose to live here and really, you know, wanted to live the rest of their life here and ended up dying here.
In the mid-'80s, Key West did an exceptional job of pulling together as a community to combat this one particular issue, a huge issue, and has continued to do so, but our job is not nearly done yet. And it's a shame. I think people are afraid of knowledge, and that to me is very sad.
It changed my life in a way that probably nothing ever did, because I had to experience death up close. I had to see my friends through their transition, some of them, and it really sobered me in terms of what my own life meant, and that that I had a mission in my life, and that was to bring hope, as Harvey said, to people. And the rainbow flag, I like to believe, is a symbol of hope and freedom and liberation.
We're at the corner of Fleming and Duval for the great unfurling of the rainbow flag.
In 1978, a 27-year-old San Francisco artist and seamstress accidentally decided to change the world. His name was Gilbert Baker. And during a time of incredible social and political change for gay people, Gilbert used his art to articulate the message, we are human, we are divine, and we are united. The 8 colors of the original rainbow flag are not accidental, for each represents an element, an essential part of our lives. Purple for spirit, blue for serenity, turquoise for magic, green for nature, yellow for sunlight, orange for healing, red for life, and yes, fuchsia for sex. For too many years, we had only 6 of those colors to celebrate. But with today's ceremony, we proudly restore the flag to its full glory, bringing back fuchsia and turquoise, telling the world that sex and magic are here to stay.
The 25-foot section. There you go. Except for two or 200 feet. Go. Go! You go. You go. 10 feet apart. Okay, we're going. We're going.
It's been a lot of hard work. I've met some beautiful people. It's been a fantastic experience. It's been a privilege, and it's a privilege to be in the lead and carrying this flag and helping represent what this stands for, to help carry this message of diversity throughout the whole world.
Yeah, I came all the way from London to see the flag.
Post 9/11, everybody needs to remember that we are just one human family, and these colors represent all facets of that. Wow.
This is part of the fabric of who we are here in Key West. This is us. This is who we are, all of us, black, white, straight, gay, everybody. This is us. This is Key West. This is what makes us really special, and we are very, very special, especially today.
I can barely even reach it. There, now I can reach it. It's very heavy.
Take logic and tolerance over superstition and fear. Everybody's good.
Everybody's got to be 10 feet apart, or they won't have enough people.
This is just wild. Look at how insane this is. It's just too cool. I had to be a part of it. Had to support the community.
About every 10 feet apart. Everybody needs to be 10 feet apart. 10 feet apart.
This flag just makes me feel like I have my own thing in this world that makes me proud to be who I am.
It's just a diverse symbol for all
humankind, all mankind, and womankind. That
I can't contain myself, as you can tell.
I'm carrying a part of history in my hands. This represents diversity, this represents love for all people, and I'm holding it.
You can see, if you hold the flag up, there's a rainbow on the pavement as well as on top, and it's just, I can't believe it. Cannot believe it.
I can't get over how beautiful the flag is. The colors are just, they're luminescent, you know? And underneath, like you can see it reflecting on the street. It's just fabulous.
There are still ministers who are taking hundreds of kids to wooded camps with giant pools and horseback and dune buggies, and the kids are having a good time. They're taking their friends, but then they sit them down at night and they indoctrinate them. They preach to them, you know, that God hates facts. That's happening even as we speak. It's summertime. There are thousands of camps all across the United States where those kids are being brainwashed like that.
Wow, I hope the whole world sees this.
I've been here since 1980, so I guess you could say I've lost a lot of friends. And it helps us honor them.
Moving slowly forward, slow and easy.
We still see it every day in Oklahoma that the worst thing you can do to a child is call him gay. And there's no protection. My sister's a teacher. She called me before I left and said that someone had called a slow child gay. And she didn't know what to do because he didn't understand. He didn't understand why people were acting and treating him the way they were.
If our president would fly over and see all these massive people, all with one thought, you know, I think he could really learn something.
The sum of the parts is indeed greater than the whole. See, this is a whole fabric of people here. We're all simply threads in that fabric to make it real, and that's what we're doing. We're here to be our piece.
Well, my name is Julio Aviel. I am the city manager. And about 2 years ago, I had the organization come to me and ask me if we would close the street down. I thought about it 30 seconds and I said, no problem, we'll close the street down, we'll get you the whatever you need, and we'll have this. And this is the result of many, many hours, hundreds of hours of volunteer work.
It just goes on and on and on. The color, all the way from sea to shining sea. Talk about diversity, Molly Blue. Look at the people who are actually carrying this flag.
Unbelievable. We have leathermen. We have housewives. We have doctors. We have mayors. We have everybody.
We got everybody out here today.
you know, being a straight man, I really, in all honesty, I'm here to just show my support for the gay community.
Because this is an unprecedented event in the world, and we've done it right here in Key West.
Key West!
Key West has done it because we are a city of diversity.
This is so cool! I can't believe this! This is amazing. Hi!
Rudy, I've seen you on your back before, but never in a situation like this. Yes, I've been face down on Duval Street many times. Officer Brenda can tell you all about that. But this is a good thing. This is a good thing because we are underneath the Rainbow 25 C2C diversity flag in front of Refuge.
We're actually laying down on Duval Street under the flag. It is the most amazing feeling in the whole entire universe.
These colors represent the promise. A promise, you know, that nothing is going to happen to us again.
I'm actually overwhelmed. Look at this. What's going on? Key West, Florida, 2003. I'm overwhelmed. Absolutely.
I didn't take enough medication today not to cry. This place has been incredible to us and everyone that we've met. And it's giving us the energy to go back and continue the fight.
Yes. We've gone a mile so far.
Can you call Rudy somehow?
And it's just phenomenal.
How much more to go?
It's pretty moving. I would say there's about 4 blocks left. 4 blocks left, about a quarter mile.
When we were told how many people it would require to volunteer, we did have, I had some concerns about it, but as you can see today is that we have more than enough volunteers to carry the flag from the Gulf all the way to the Atlantic Ocean.
We're almost 3/4 of the way down Duval Street. We're having a little bit of excitement because we're not sure if we're going to have enough people to keep the flag going.
We need the flag holders to spread out a bit. We want about 10 feet between each of you. We want about 10 feet between each of the flag holders. You guys are doing a wonderful job. It's fantastic.
It's been exciting because the whole community is like on their cell phones. Everyone's calling their friends, saying, get down to Front Street. I know.
Well, some girl wanted to go get a cocktail, so I thought I'd take her place for her while she was going to get a cocktail. And I just decided to hang on to the flag and continue on with it.
We'll rip it. Let go. Let go. Just let it go with your hands. We'll rip it if you hold it. You can't talk.
Jump in? Yeah, everybody's jumping in at this end, so it'll be a success. Within a few minutes, both ends will touch both oceans. No, up the ground!
We're almost there. It's the most gorgeous sight in the world, looking back and seeing miles of flag behind me. It's just incredible.
Almost there. Oh, wow.
I have to do my end. Just stay there. You stay there until...
See all the way to the other end. Whoa. Whoa. Stay away.
Brent.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What an incredible event.
Yeah, man. It's all about love. One city coming together. Unbelievable.
There is not just one story on this island, but many. And today those stories found a voice. Crowds of people, all colors, all shapes, all ages and beliefs, gathered along a street named Duval to hold in their hands a piece of history. They arrived from every nook and cranny of this tiny island, peppered between men, women, and children from across the globe. The fabric came alive, unifying the thousands of individuals into a single entity, a 1.25-mile statement of love, diversity, and acceptance. A ribbon of color, the physical manifestation of a state of mind. A celebration of the uniqueness and individualism that is the heart of us all. So I ask myself every day, what does this tiny island of Key West have to teach the rest of the world? What does it teach me? The answer that comes back to me is always the same. Choice. I can choose to hate, or I can choose to love. And worse yet, I can choose to fear. Key West taught me it has to be my choice.